The interview we have all been waiting for, Michael, your interview with Prince Harry ahead of the release of Spare.
Yes, Joy. You know, for nearly 4 decades, the Duke of Sussex, more commonly known as Prince Harry, he's been the subject of global fascination and intense media scrutiny. But after years of watching others tell his life story, he says that it was time for him to finally take control of the narrative.
I don't think that we can ever have peace with my family unless the truth is out there. There's a lot that I can forgive, but there needs to be conversations in order for reconciliation, and part of that has to be accountability.
In his new memoir, Spare, Prince Harry writes about the British royal family's complicated relationship he says they have with the British press, and chronicles the family dynamics that led him and his wife Meghan to step back from royal life. Share with me the significance of the title.
Within the family as such, there's the spare and the heir, my brother being the heir and me being the spare. And so I think it was just a really good opportunity to choose a title that had been somewhat used against me for a long part of my life and own that title.
To the outside world, Prince Harry and his brother Prince William have always appeared close, seemingly bonded by the death of their mother, Princess Diana, when Harry was just 12. In his memoir, Harry writes about a more complex relationship, recalling verbal and even physical disputes between the brothers. You refer to your brother as your beloved brother and arch nemesis. Strong words.
There has always been this competition between us, weirdly. Again, I think it really plays into, or is played by, the heir spare and the British press's part in that, right? They pitched the Waleses, right, of which Kate and William are now, against the Sussexes, me and my wife. They always pitched us against each other. They pitched Kate and Meghan against each other.
So when they pitched them against each other, do you think that it made them kind of go against each other?
Yeah, I mean, without question.
Harry claims members of the royal family and their staff fed stories to the press and refused to set the record straight on false reports, especially about his wife Meghan, shifting a negative spotlight onto her in order to protect other royals. You have any examples of some of those stories?
There's a whole handful of examples in the book. It's so petty, but it's the bridesmaids' dresses.
Yeah.
Right? That was a real hard one for me because I was like, we've moved on from that. But while I was writing the book, we were on version 29 or 30, all of which involved my wife supposedly making numerous people within my family cry, which just simply wasn't the case. For historical reference, like, the truth needs to be there and it needs to come from me.
How would your mom feel about your relationship with your brother now?
I think she would be sad. I think she'd be looking at it long term to know that there are certain things that we need to go through to be able to heal the relationship. I think she would be heartbroken that it's ended up where it's ended up. I think she'd be heartbroken about the fact that William, his office, were part of these stories. And William and I made a pact, made a deal that no matter what, we would never let our offices fight against each other. You think he broke that pact? Yes, no, the people that he employed broke that pact.
Do you think you have any responsibility in the breakdown of the relationship?
I'm without question, I'm sure. But what people don't know is the efforts that I've gone to resolve this privately, both with my brother and with my father.
Harry also writing about family issues with his father, King Charles, and his wife, Queen Consort Camilla, saying both he and his brother asked their father not to marry Camilla, but that he also wanted his father to be happy, writing, quote, "In a funny way, I even wanted Camilla to be happy. Maybe she'd be less dangerous if she was happy." When your father married Camilla, you wrote, "I had complex feelings about gaining a step-parent who I thought had recently sacrificed me on her personal PR altar." What had she done at that point, you felt?
I have a huge amount of compassion for her, you know, being the third person within my parents' marriage. And she had a reputation or an image to rehabilitate. And whatever conversations happened, whatever deals or trading was made right at the beginning, she was led to believe that that would be the best way to doing it.
And what is your relationship with Camilla now?
We haven't spoken for a long time. You know, I love every member of my family, despite the differences. So when I see her, we're perfectly pleasant with each other. You know, she's my stepmother. I don't look at her as an evil stepmother. I see someone who married into this institution and has done everything that she can to, you know, improve her own reputation and her own image for her own sake.
As his relationship with Meghan got more serious and dominated headlines, Harry believed his father and Camilla got jealous. I was surprised when I read that you're in the car with your father and your brother. Kind of casually brings up Meghan, and then casually drops in that he doesn't have enough, he wouldn't be able to support you both. How did that make you feel? Where did that come from?
It's a funny one within the family, right? My father was ultimately responsible for both me and my brother and, you know, our partners and our families. So it did seem a little bit strange that somehow the rules were being changed, or that I was being guided on a very different path, or at least my partner was being guided on a very different path, should we end up getting married.
Harry says women who marry into his family face intense media scrutiny, but when it came to Meghan, he says the British press used her race against her.
My wife is not visibly black, but that's who she is. The way that they speak about her and the way they treat her is incredibly relatable to everybody else of color.
So did it give you a better sense, being with Meghan, about how black women are seen, treated in society as a whole?
Yeah.
With the paparazzi playing a role in his mother's deadly car crash, Harry said that he feared the relentless British media coverage of his family could endanger Meghan and their son Archie.
I'm trying to put a stop to this because I can't ever imagine, and I don't want to imagine, what that would be like for me or for my kids, especially when you talk about history repeating itself, right?
Harry writes that he suggested a possible solution to the royal family, a hybrid proposal that would have allowed them to split their time between Canada and the UK while still serving the Queen. Recently, you lost your grandmother, and I offer my condolences to you. Did she ever express that she was upset at you?
For what?
Or wanting to change your role within the family?
My grandmother and I had a very good relationship. It was never a surprise to anybody, least of all her. She knew what was going on, she knew how hard it was. She never said to me that she was angry. I think she was sad that it had got to that point.
Harry says his proposed plan was ultimately denied, and his security, which was funded by UK taxpayers, was taken away from him. There was no compromise with the family?
No, which was really sad because I still to this day believe that this was entirely possible.
There are going to be people saying, why don't they either be in or get out? Because if you get out, there's no hypocrisy.
I can't ever get out. And I'm incredibly aware of my position, and I'm incredibly grateful for the life that I've had and continue to live. But there's no version of me ever be able to get out of this. I was stunned that my family would allow security to be taken away, especially at the most vulnerable point for us.
Did you think that they didn't understand your concerns, or they didn't concern themselves with your concerns? They didn't care?
I think probably a little bit of both.
Some critics are going to say, well, you're taking private struggles, you're making money off of them, you're getting paid from it, so it's almost as if you've sold out your family.
The only way that I can protect us, the only way that I can correct those mistruths is by writing something, the truth, in one place. Then I fully accept that writing a book is feeding the beast anyway.
Is there a part of you that can see you and your family going back to the UK, becoming working royals with the monarchy?
I don't think it's ever going to be possible. I don't think that, you know, even if there was an agreement or an arrangement between me and my family, there is that third party that is going to do everything they can to make sure that that isn't possible. Not stopping us from necessarily going back, but making it unsurvivable. And that's really sad because that is essentially breaking the relationship between us. There was something in the future where, you know, we can continue to support the Commonwealth, then that's of course on the table.
And Prince Harry says he felt the responsibility to speak out against the racism and cronyism that he says his family faced in the British press, because if he can't do it with all of his resources, then who can? He also hopes that by exposing the relationship he describes between the family and the press, it will stop and hopefully protect other members of the family and future generations to come. In our next hour, Prince Harry talks very candidly about his mental health struggles, the moment he finally accepted his mom's death, and how he still feels her presence today, especially as a father of two. Also, Prince Harry, in his own words, half-hour special will stream on ABC News Live and Hulu tonight at 8:30 p.m. Spare is available everywhere tomorrow.
Boy, that breach is so deep in that family.
So deep, and he's very honest about it, George. He does not hold back at all.
It seems like he is wanting accountability before there can be any sort of reconciliation.
Yes, I think he's willing to admit his fault and hopes that others will look at his example and admit theirs. I think that's the only way he feels the family can come back together.
All right. Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.
Welcome to the C News channel, where the latest stories meet sharp commentary, a dash of humor, and the occasional eye roll. Whether you're here for the juiciest gossip, breaking news, or just a good laugh at the world's expense, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button like it's the last slice of pizza, drop a comment, we're all ears, and share if you're feeling extra generous. After all, if you're not subscribed, what are you even doing here? Get in the loop, C News is waiting. Harry's Truth, the memoir that shook the royal family. In 2023, the world watched as Prince Harry released his highly anticipated memoir, Spare. It was more than just a book, it was a seismic shift in the public narrative surrounding the British royal family, a family that, for centuries, had been seen as untouchable, royal, and unshakable. But Harry, now firmly outside the royal fold, was determined to tell his story. His memoir promised to unveil the truth, not just about his life, but about the inner workings of the royal institution itself. For most of his life, Harry had been in the shadow of his older brother, Prince William, the heir to the throne. But as he grew older, it became clear that the pressure of royal expectations weighed heavily on Harry's shoulders. Despite his charming persona and reputation as a fun-loving prince, there was a darker side to the royal experience, one that Harry had lived with for years. And when he finally opened up about his experiences in Spare, the world listened. The memoir wasn't just an exploration of his own struggles, however. It was, in Harry's words, a way to protect his children, Archie and Lilibet, from the same pitfalls he had experienced growing up. "This is not about me," Harry wrote. "This is about the future, about safeguarding my children and the next generation of royals." He was making an argument that had rarely been made before, that the royal family's rigid structure and public expectations were unhealthy, even damaging, to those who lived within it. The pain behind the pages. In Spare, Harry opens up about the grief he still carries over the death of his mother, Princess Diana, and how her passing has haunted him throughout his life. He writes candidly about the years of emotional turmoil, the intense media scrutiny, and the strained relationships with his family members. But the most startling revelations were about his strained relationship with his brother, Prince William, and his growing disillusionment with the monarchy. One of the most shocking excerpts in the memoir was Harry's account of the infamous 2019 altercation with William. The two brothers, once incredibly close, were now at odds. Harry described how his brother allegedly called him the Spare, and how their relationship had become increasingly hostile. It wasn't just a family feud, it was a reflection of the larger tensions within the royal institution itself. Harry felt like an outsider, a spare, to the throne, and his growing frustration with his place in the family and the royal system reached a boiling point. But Spare wasn't just about family drama. Harry also expressed his deep dissatisfaction with the monarchy's treatment of his wife, Meghan Markle, and the toll it took on their relationship. Meghan, an American actress who became Harry's wife in 2018, was subject to relentless media attacks, much like Diana had been years earlier. The couple's decision to step back from their royal duties in 2020, and ultimately move to the United States, was not a rash one. It was born from years of frustration with an institution that seemed incapable of change. "I wanted to protect my family," Harry wrote. "I wanted to ensure that my children would never experience the same level of scrutiny, judgment, and pain that I had to endure as a child." The media war, perhaps one of the most explosive aspects of Spare, was Harry's relentless critique of the media and the role it played in his life. He made it clear that the British press had gone too far in its treatment of his family, with constant harassment, misinformation, and even what he described as a war against his wife, Harry didn't hold back when it came to the press. He spoke about the relentless paparazzi chasing him and his family, the invasive stories about his life, and the constant pressure to conform to a public image. He also revealed that certain members of the royal family had allegedly leaked negative stories about him to the press in an effort to protect their own reputations. This was not just a story of a rebellious prince, it was a story about the power dynamics within the royal family and how those in power often protect their own interests at the expense of others. Through it all, Harry remained steadfast in his belief that his memoir was not about revenge, it was about healing. "I'm speaking my truth not to hurt anyone," he explained, "but to ensure that future generations don't have to go through the same pain that I did." A new kind of royal, Harry's memoir has undoubtedly altered the royal landscape, casting a new light on what it means to be part of the British monarchy. It also raises important questions about the institution's future. How can a monarchy that has remained relatively unchanged for centuries adapt to the modern world? Can it continue to thrive while dealing with the personal struggles of its members, like Harry, who have grown increasingly disillusioned with its traditions and demands? The royal family, for its part, has largely remained silent in the wake of Spare's release. But Harry's openness about his struggles has resonated with millions around the world who feel trapped in similar systems of tradition, expectation, and public scrutiny. His honesty has opened up a wider conversation about mental health, the dangers of fame, and the need for change within institutions that are often resistant to it. Harry's message to his children, Archie and Lilibet, is clear: they will not grow up the same way he did. He will ensure that they are protected from the pressures that came with being born into royalty, from the constant media frenzy to the public expectations that come with being part of one of the world's most famous families, and for Harry, that means speaking out, even when the truth is uncomfortable, even when it risks alienating him from his family. Because, ultimately, he wants a better future for his children, and perhaps, a different future for the monarchy itself, a legacy of change. Spare might have been a deeply personal memoir, but its impact extends far beyond the walls of the royal palaces. Harry's candid reflections on his life, his family, and his vision for the future have sparked conversations about what it means to live in the public eye, what it means to be royal, and how institutions can evolve in a world that demands transparency, accountability, and empathy. In the end, Spare may not just be the story of a prince, it may also be the story of a new kind of royal, one who is willing to speak out, to challenge tradition, and to fight for a future where personal truth can coexist with public duty. For Harry, it's no longer just about being the Spare. It's about being the change the monarchy, and the world, so desperately. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, has spent much of his adult life living in the shadow of his brother, Prince William, the heir to the British throne. For years, Harry appeared content with his role as the Spare, supporting his family, carrying out royal duties, and enjoying a life of privilege and public service. But, behind the polished public image was a growing sense of frustration, isolation, and personal conflict that would ultimately lead to one of the most publicized rifts in modern royal history. Harry's decision to step back from his royal duties in 2020, along with his wife Meghan Markle, was the culmination of years of internal struggle. The decision did not come overnight, nor was it a rash rebellion against his family. Instead, it was the result of a deepening sense of disillusionment with the royal institution, the media, and the pressures placed upon his personal life. In his memoir Spare and subsequent interviews, Harry has been vocal about what led to this fracture, shedding light on a journey that was both personal and painful. Yet, through it all, his desire for reconciliation and healing has remained a central theme. The roots of the rift, the tensions between Harry and the royal family began long before his marriage to Meghan Markle. In fact, Harry's struggles with his place in the royal family began in his younger years. Born as the second son of Prince Charles and Princess Diana, Harry was always in the shadow of his older brother, William, the future king. While William was groomed for the throne, Harry often found himself relegated to a more secondary role. This wasn't a matter of favoritism, but rather the unspoken expectations placed upon both brothers by the monarchy. Harry was the Spare to the heir, a position that left him feeling sidelined and at times irrelevant. But the true unraveling began in the years leading up to Harry's relationship with Meghan. In his memoir, Harry writes about the overwhelming pressure of being in the public eye, the relentless media scrutiny, and the toll it took on his mental health. As much as Harry appreciated the charitable work he was able to do through his royal duties, the expectations to always be in line with tradition and to maintain a certain image weighed heavily on him. When Harry met Meghan, an American actress with a progressive mindset and a commitment to social causes, he found someone who challenged the norms of the royal family. Meghan was outspoken, independent, and fiercely protective of her privacy, which clashed with the demands of royal life. But for Harry, Meghan was also someone who understood the immense pressure of public life, having dealt with her own struggles in Hollywood. She was, to him, a breath of fresh air, someone who encouraged him to step out of the shadows and live life on his own terms. But for the royal family, Meghan's presence was a challenge to the status quo. From the start, Meghan was met with intense criticism, particularly from the British press. Much of the criticism was based on racist and misogynistic tropes, but the palace's response was muted at best. For Harry, watching his wife be vilified and the institution he had been born into remain largely silent was deeply painful. He writes about how this, combined with his long-standing frustrations, led him to question whether staying within the royal fold was truly in the best interest of his family. The final straw, stepping back, the rift between Harry and the royal family came to a head in early 2020, when he and Meghan announced the decision to step back from their roles as senior members of the royal family. This decision was seen by many as a dramatic move, one that would change the royal family's dynamic forever. It was a break from tradition, one that left Harry and Meghan branded as rebellious and ungrateful by some sections of the media. But for Harry, the decision was not one made in haste or with malice. It was a step toward freedom, a way to escape the confines of royal life and create a new path for his family. In interviews and in his memoir, Harry has emphasized that his decision to step back was not an attack on his family or the institution of the monarchy itself. Rather, it was a response to the toxic environment in which he and Meghan found themselves. "We felt we had no choice but to take a step back," Harry wrote. "We could not continue to play the game the way it had always been played." But the consequences of that decision were far-reaching. The royal family, particularly Harry's brother William, was blindsided by the announcement, and their relationship began to deteriorate. Harry writes about feeling hurt by the lack of support from his family during this tumultuous period, particularly from William, whom he once considered a close ally. The relationship between the two brothers, once marked by shared experiences and mutual respect, became increasingly strained. Harry's rift with his family was no longer just about personal differences, it was about diverging paths, values, and priorities, the need for reconciliation. Despite the pain and the public fallout, Harry has always maintained that he wants to reconcile with his family. In interviews and statements, he has expressed a willingness to heal the rift with his brother and the rest of the royal family, but he is clear that it must be on his terms, terms that prioritize his family's well-being and privacy. "I want to make it clear that this isn't about attacking my family," Harry said in a recent interview. "This is about healing, about finding a way forward that works for all of us. I've always loved my family. I always will." In his memoir, Harry writes that reconciliation will require a shift in mindset, not just for him, but for the entire royal institution. "The monarchy must evolve," he says. "The institution must evolve, and it has to be more open to the idea that change is necessary. Not just for me, but for the future generations who will one day take on the mantle of this family." Harry's vision for reconciliation is rooted in honesty and transparency. He believes that for healing to occur, the royal family must acknowledge the struggles that its members face, particularly when it comes to mental health. For too long, he argues, the royal family has been entrenched in a culture of silence and stoicism, where emotions are suppressed, and personal struggles are hidden from the public eye. In his view, true healing cannot happen until the institution is willing to confront these issues openly. One of the most important aspects of reconciliation, according to Harry, is ensuring that his children, Archie and Lilibet, are given the freedom to live their lives outside the royal spotlight. Harry wants his children to be protected from the same media scrutiny and public expectations that he and Meghan endured. "I want my children to grow up without fear," he wrote. "I want them to have the freedom to make their own choices, without being constantly judged by the world." Harry's positive influence. While much of the coverage of Prince Harry has focused on his break with the royal family, it's important to recognize the positive impact he has had, not just within the royal institution, but in the world beyond it. His work with veterans, mental health advocacy, and charity efforts has made a significant difference in many lives. Harry has used his platform to speak openly about mental health, an issue that was once a taboo subject within the royal family. He has become a leading voice in advocating for mental health awareness, encouraging people to seek help and to break the stigma surrounding mental illness. His support for veterans through initiatives like the Invictus Games has brought much-needed attention to the sacrifices made by servicemen and women around the world. His charitable work, particularly with organizations focused on children and mental health, has been a testament to his commitment to creating a positive impact. In a world that is often quick to judge and criticize, Harry has shown courage in being vulnerable, in sharing his struggles, and in fighting for what he believes is right. While his journey has been filled with challenges, it is clear that his heart is set on creating a better world for his family and future generations. His vision for reconciliation is not about erasing the past, but about moving forward with understanding, empathy, and a willingness to change. Ultimately, Prince Harry's story is one of resilience, growth, and hope. His desire to mend his relationship with his family, while simultaneously carving out a new life for his own family, is a powerful message for all. It is a reminder that change is difficult, but it is also necessary, and that sometimes, the most courageous act is the willingness to be vulnerable and seek peace.